Hello and welcome back to the XRP Vault, where we bring you the most up-to-date and exciting XRP news. We're giving away 10,000 XRP to anyone who watches. All you have to do to be eligible is upvote, subscribe, say XRP is king, and watch the video until the finish. The winners will be chosen next month and announced on the channel's community page. In this video, I'll explain why it appears that we haven't seen any profitable growth in the Bitcoin market in a long time. But, more importantly, I want to discuss current developments that may substantially affect the situation we are currently in. We are already witnessing some major macroeconomic events that have the ability to completely reverse this market. It is critical that men watch the entire video because you will not want to miss it, guys. I'd also like to dispel two significant misconceptions concerning XRP. The first and second are volatility and decentralization. In this video, I'd want to show why people are so incorrect about these two topics. And I'd like to show you that XRP ranks among the top performers in these two categories. Stay put, gentlemen, because this is critical. So, guys, before we begin, I'd want to thank Rosalind Lee, a reporter who covered the tumultuous SEC case. And, gentlemen, I believe it is vital that we attract attention to folks like this because there are so many different reporters who will simply back a government agency in order to prevent any issue that may arise as a result of them being critical of the government. Rosalind, on the other hand, is unconcerned. She has also covered this case with great candor. Take a look at this excerpt from her most recent work. She is referring to the SEC when she claims the agency has recently been aggressively implementing its enforcement rules and is eager to attack any crypto assets, including those that follow the law. And, gentlemen, the SEC is punishing progress while we warn of confusion. Guys, this is the most accurate I can get based on the title of her essay. And the fact that the SEC is pursuing and dismantling projects isn't the fundamental concern that the majority of Bitcoin investors now have with the agency. The SEC appears to be fine with allowing frauds to continue and carry on, which is the component that most perplexes me. And the SEC has decided to focus on initiatives that are attempting to do the right thing. Gribble, one of the most compliant cryptocurrency firms on the market, goes above and beyond to prioritize openness. Since 2013, the SEC and other government authorities have been invited to talks with them. Since its start, Ripple has made an effort to perform morally and effectively as feasible. Nonetheless, the SEC has decided to penalize them all. While everything is going on, the SEC decides to back many companies, including FTX, which is clearly participating in fraud. And, gentlemen, that is how you end yourself in the regulatory labyrinth we are currently in while permitting scams to flourish. The SEC is eliminating legitimate players. And it's completely unpleasant. My current issue with the SEC is basically this, which I believe many other people appreciate. Rosalind, it's one thing for the SEC to lack general knowledge about cryptocurrencies, but it's quite another for it to prioritize damaging the industry's good actors over boosting. It's a negative thing because regulators will understand the SEC is unqualified to oversee the Bitcoin economy. I believe the issue will ultimately face the expense of this because few journalists are willing to write such things. I just wanted to make sure Rosalind gets the recognition she deserves, and I think she's doing an amazing job overall. So, guys, let us look at another recent item that states the SAIC v. Ripple litigation will be addressed through settlement. Our community, according to the majority of the XRP. Now, gentlemen, I suspect that the majority of members of the XRP community believe this issue will be settled since many very smart lawyers in our community have advised us that the case's conclusion is quite likely. Many people now hear about settlements and say, "Oh, that's just wishful thinking, this lawsuit will never be settled." We're getting closer. And I simply want to underscore that this case might go to trial and yet be settled. It is not hoped that 90% of SEC proceedings result in settlements, which is why people actually feel one will occur in this case. The data support a settlement. Keep in mind, however, that this does not always suggest that the case will finish there, because it might still go all the way to trial. The disagreement could yet be resolved if Judge Torres rules on summary judgment. It's critical to remember that just because a settlement can sometimes be a simple process doesn't mean that this one will be as well. This case could end up in summary judgment. Furthermore, the parties may negotiate an agreement only to avoid having the court make the final decision. Many people, I've noticed, hear the word settlement and instantly think, oh, that's just hope it never happens. Guys, we could go the distance and still come to an agreement. In this situation, I believe a settlement will be reached. In the end, because the majority of issues concerning the SEC have been handled, the SEC will oppose the release of certain records to the public, and settling this action is the only way they can prevent those from becoming public. Furthermore, because a settlement would prevent the SABC from fighting any prospective findings, Ripple has a motive to do so, guys, if summary judgment is granted in this case. Just be aware that the statistics are not in favor of a settlement occurring. If you hear people discussing one, they will likely dismiss it as wishful thinking. However, I believe Ripples are in a good situation. But, if it doesn't, I just wanted to make that clear, because I want to continue and show you a really amazing visualization of decentralization, specifically between Bitcoin and XRP, that I recently witnessed, as a result of several cryptocurrency legislation that is currently being introduced, including one from Senator Looney's, that claims Bitcoin is not a security because it is so decentralized, but the majority of other altcoins will be securities. Take a look at these guys. This graph simply depicts the strength of Bitcoin's validation. And, as we can see, the Bitcoin structure favors centralization depending on who has the least amount of power, because you are compensated for donating validation power to the network. You are motivated to validate numerous blocks and earn a lot of Bitcoin if you can access inexpensive power. As a result, you may notice centralization in the world's largest pools. These pools may acquire power at the lowest prices, allowing them to verify the most blocks and impose the most network influence. Consider how evenly spread the validation power for the XRP eyeballs is. It is far more decentralized and disseminated than Bitcoin. This is because, in a network like XRP, where there is no motivation for owning more of the network, validation power is distributed more evenly. And these are the things that congressmen and senators simply do not understand. They are unaware that this is how things actually work since they do not see it. At the end of the day, the bulk of them would be surprised if they saw this because they don't understand cryptocurrency well enough to write these checks. That, my friends, is one of the many reasons I believe we are extraordinarily lucky to be involved in the rippling SEC case. Because there is no investment agreement between XRP holders and Ripple the firm, the legal system will offer clarification for XRP. To refer to XRP as security is ludicrous. However, the majority of cryptocurrencies will not have this opportunity since our decision will come from the courts, and we have an impartial judge who actually understands these things making the ultimate decision, and I genuinely feel that's the best we'll get. Most cryptocurrencies will have some corrupt politician who doesn't understand such things making the final decision on the cryptocurrency's security status. And, despite having to go through the entire legal process, I believe we were forced to fight the SEC every step of the way. In the end, I feel it will be beneficial. And I believe that in the end, we'll be delighted that the SASI opted to pursue Ripple because I believe they'll make XRP the sole regulated asset in the United States, folks, while all the other projects will be pleading with corrupt politicians to behave properly. While we await clarification from the courts. And, based on what I've seen, I don't think that will happen. Instead, the cryptocurrency market could be on the verge of a huge turnaround. And as I close up this video, I'd like to briefly show you some of the most important charts I've been viewing. And, believe it or not, these macroeconomic developments are really encouraging. And it's the biggest thing that needs to happen for cryptocurrencies to rebound, so let's talk about volatility briefly. To begin, many people believe that cryptocurrencies are too unpredictable to invest in, yet, in contrast to items like Tesla, which flew up a cliff before tumbling off a cliff, the price of XRP has been comparably consistent and stable over the previous 5 years. Because cryptocurrencies are just as unpredictable as traditional markets, companies like ARK are doing the same thing. They are currently climbing and descending a cliff. They're just making up a tale to keep you out of the problem. Having said that, I'd like to show you a few objects that appear to have a lot of potentials. First, it discusses the likelihood of a recession. As can be observed, a market bottom frequently occurs when recession expectations reach their peak. March 2009 and April 2020 are two examples. And, as it stands, it appears like we are about to make another top. This would be a terrific indicator that the markets are about to bottom out, or have already done so. So, fellas, your generation's time limit is swiftly approaching, as everyone anticipates the coming of the largest recession in recorded history. However, we have yet to see any signs that a major recession is taking place. While this does not rule out the possibility of a recession, it does suggest that it may not be as severe as the market thinks. I want to show you something else really important. That is the strength of the dollar. The dollar went bananas and reached all-time highs, putting tremendous pressure on the markets. As a result, sir, everyone was selling their things to raise money in anticipation of a devastating recession. However, the dollar appears to be plunging drastically as we watch that coin flip. As can be seen, every substantial drop in the value of the dollar lasted a long period. This is because the dollar tends to decrease in this manner over a period of time. And, if we see cash leaving the dollar, it will need to find a new home and will most likely return to equity markets, which will most likely return it to cryptocurrencies. This is a really encouraging sign. Finally, a few firms mentioned it during their earnings calls. They all argue that the market is currently experiencing deflation. Guys, the Federal Reserve began hiking rates to combat inflation, which is the primary reason why prices are falling across various marketplaces. Guys, if inflation disappears and is replaced by deflation, the Federal Reserve may stop raising interest rates, considerably easing the pressure on the markets. All markets are currently moving in the opposite way because everyone is so afraid of the Federal Reserve and a recession that they are simply selling everything for cash, causing the dollar to surge. Guys, if deflation hits the market, the Federal Reserve can cease rising interest rates, and consumers will be far more inclined to resort to riskier assets rather than cash. And exactly that is what the market needs to do in order to recover, so let's see what happens. However, I believe that people were too concerned about the next big depression, which may or may not arrive. As a result, many people may have felt obliged to return to the market. And, believe it or not, that appears to be the case right now. Anyway, gentlemen, I appreciate your presence. I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, please subscribe to it and like it for the time being. It truly means a great